Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time zone you may be calling us in from today. Thank you for joining us. My name is Rebecca Cronin, and I'm one of the customer success managers here with the Altair Data Analytics team. Now, you might recognize my voice from either participating in some of our onboarding sessions or perhaps seen my name within the user community forum group. The customer success team, we're here as another point of contact for you to reach out to at any time with any questions, concerns you may have regarding Altair or our solutions. If you're unable to get a hold of your account manager, we're another resource to go to. We can also provide assistance in receiving access to their online user community or within the Altair One platform. If you haven't participated in our user community, I encourage you to do so. It's a great location to be able to collaborate with other fellow peers, view some of our product solutions offerings, answer some of the discussion posts, questions that have been submitted, as well as several helpful resources like how-to videos and such. One of the little housekeeping items we have here, if it's your first time, you'll see on the left is the control panel. There's actually a handout section. It is a copy of today's PowerPoint presentation that's been included. And in this PowerPoint, there is a slide that contains a list of helpful web link resources. And we'll show that towards the end of the session today. So we're very excited that you're joining us today for our Altair Data Analytics Ask the Expert session. Our goal is that to provide you an open time slot to be able to freely drop in, to be able to ask any questions you may have regarding Monarch Server. It does not have to be about the topic that we're covering today. And as some of you may know, this is what was voted on from our previous session. And we'll be sending a poll question later today to review the topic for the upcoming week, or I should say the following session. So also in the handouts, or also in the control panel, there should be the chat question where you can submit the questions that you may have to ask. Like I said, it does not have to be about our topics that we're reviewing today, but anything related Monarch or Monarch Server. We will do our best to get to your question, and if we do not have time to do so, we run out of time, we will follow up separately, either directly or with a support ticket to provide that response. If you do enter a question within the chat, just note that we will share it with everyone in attendance, so it's just broad knowledge for them all. Unless it's a private question that you have to be addressed, then we will take that offline. If you think this is a helpful session, I encourage you to forward the registration link in the chat panel to your fellow colleagues. At this point, I'd like to introduce you to our expert. It's Chris Porthouse. He's one of our senior professional services consultants. He's worked over 22 years in various technical support roles, including Altair, which is probably about 16 plus years. Chris can correct me if I'm wrong. He started off as a project manager, switched his role to implementation and integration engineer, to his now current role of a senior professional service consultant. You may have had the opportunity to work with him directly, or perhaps also seen his name within the user community, responding to those discussion posts. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn the screen and presenter over to Chris so we could dive right into our topic today, which is replacing data sources in DPS and then Monarch Server connection definitions.
All right, great. All right. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about starting off with replacing data sources and data sources in Data Prep Studio. There's a couple reasons why you might have to do that. And I think the biggest one that we normally see is if you were to actually create a workspace within Data Prep and then share it with somebody else. A lot of times the files that you built that workspace against, that the other person you share this workspace with does not have access to the same location. So a lot of times you might have a file that you're working on within your own user profile directory, like a downloads or documents folder. And when you share the workspace, it's pointing to a location that the next person doesn't have access to. Or if you're pulling from like a shared location, like a network share, and the other person doesn't have access to it as well. You also see this a lot, especially with Automator, like you're building stuff on your local machine, you move it up to the server, and the server doesn't have access to your local machine. So generally, when you see that manifest itself, I'm going to go ahead and open up a workspace that could have been shared with me, and right away you get a warning message saying that one or more tables have invalid file paths. So the easiest thing to really do is just kind of click on this big red button here that says Find Missing Files. Or again, you see I have a couple load plans here that don't have error messages with that little warning exclamation mark. But if you hover over that warning, you can actually see the error message that pops up. Cannot open file, and it's pointing to a classic.prn located on my C drive. Chances are whoever I shared this file with wouldn't necessarily have access to that directory on my C drive. So you can either go to each individual load plan or table here and manually fix these, or you can always click the big red button here that says Find Missing Files. So if you use the Find Missing Files, it will actually bring up a wizard here that shows all the missing files. And if you're fortunate enough, you can actually, instead of having to browse, say you had like 10 missing files here, if they're all in the same directory, you can always click the Set Root button that would find the file or change the directory. It will keep the file name, but just change the directory name for those missing files. Or again, you could like always manually, by clicking on Browse here, browse to wherever you can find this folder. Now, in my case, I had actually just renamed the file from class to classic. So what I'm going to end up doing, I'm just going to hit the Browse, and again, it doesn't normally open up on the, unfortunately, it never opens up in the last known folder. So I just got to browse to it. My projects, Monarch reports, and then find classic or class, whichever. So I call it class parent. So I'm just going to select that one, say open. If I can find the file, you'll get a green check mark here saying that it can find it. And again, if this if you had multiple tables down here on the left that actually accessed the same file, it'll change all those locations. So you can see it says affected tables classic, but if you had multiple tables here, it would list all the tables that would be set. I'm gonna click OK, and now that warning message goes away and it loads my table. Now, the other option you could have, so say it's not a problem where someone shared a workspace and you were able to load the file that they built their workspace off of. But in this case, like say it's a monthly file that you, like, so this one shows stuff that was shipped in April, but you want to apply a different report in this case. So you want like January, February, March. You have a couple options for swapping out this table name here. The easiest thing to do would be to, if you knew where the files were located, you can just simply drag and drop that into your workspace here. So make sure when you're doing the drag and drop method that you do get this box with the green dashed lines around it. Because if you drop it anywhere over here, it'll actually launch the, in this case, a report design, and it actually expect you to recreate the models or the templates for that. So if you are going to do the drag and drop method, don't drop it down here. Make sure you just drop it on the table that you want to actually add that report to. And then I can always get rid of, by using the, by right-clicking or using the down arrow, I can just say remove report, and that will just leave my class dev instead of class.prn. You can also, again, if you wanted to, add report, from a local or web file, or just edit the file path directly. And again, you can see I have class Feb. I know I have one here called for January, so I just change that to Jan. I can click that, and it'll change that report in here as well. And you can say edit all file paths, and you'll see each individual file I have loaded here, so I can actually go and change each individual ones here. So that's kind of the quick way, especially when it comes to a report file, on how to swap out a data source connection for a report, so like text or PDF file. But what if you had, say, an Excel file? So with Excel files, we have two options now. One, to open as a database where all your data is already in rows and columns. And the other option is to actually open up in Worksheet Design, where it's not necessarily probably laid out the best, and you actually have to go through a design mode similar to report design and create a set of templates to pull out the data you're looking for. So in the case of with a database, so I have this one Excel file opened up inside it as a database. So I already had my column headers in here. It was already properly formatted. And so say I get another spreadsheet that I want to swap this out for, kind of the same option here. So you don't see the actual file that's loaded here, but if I use a drop-down arrow for this Excel as database, you can see you get the same options here for edit file path. This edit load options, it is only, I'll say, is useful for like database kind of stuff, where if you want to change what you're pulling in, how many, like does your first row has column name, stuff like that. So this isn't necessarily the one you want to click on, the load options, but just like the report, you're going to want to do edit file path. And again, it will just open up the current folder it's browsing to. And then if I go to, say I change it to this one, I can just simply swap it out. Now, again, you can't, unfortunately for this one, you can't do a drag and drop for like we do with reports. You actually have to use the drop-down arrow to swap out which file you'd like to use. And the same thing is, again, if you open this up as a worksheet, it's kind of the same option. You can edit file path and just browse to the file that you want to swap out to. Now, the one difference with the open as a worksheet design is you also have this option here. It says apply to. So in this case, if you have a workbook, let me see if I can find it real quick. So if I actually open up that file, you see I have two sheets in here, a final sheet 2 and a final rules, right? But when I use worksheet design, I only kind of work with one worksheet. And again, and if you're familiar with worksheet design, you'll be able to do this. But if I'm actually going to turn on the sheet name here as a metadata, just so you can see. Let me just move it. And move the column up to the front here. There you go. But if I wanted to look at the other worksheet that was in that workbook, again, instead of using edit file path, it's going to be the same one. I'll just use this apply to, and then I can change the sheet, or I can actually select both of them. And if I select both of them, you'll see it'll put both sheets in the same table, just like if I had multiple reports loaded for multiple reports loaded for my load plan up here. So multiple reports here, you can actually see each individual report. For Excel as worksheet, the real good way to tell is having a metadata column to show the sheet name. So again, and if I don't want to see both sheets, just come back to supply to and uncheck, or only select the ones I want to see. So, right. And then there's another one I kind of want to demonstrate. Let's see if I can remember how this, and get the right credentials here. So not only do we have like the reports and Excel stuff, we also have other connections we can use. In this case, like say a database connection. So I believe, remember if this was I believe this was a SQL Server one. I say I want to connect to a SQL Server, get data, and then I just need to remember all the information. So the host name, I believe I have that server on right now. port's fine. So again, I'm going to connect to a SQL server with a database connection. So you have to know all their credentials for it. So I need that. And I'm hoping I remember it. So this is kind of similar to like what we do with Excel, except it's not a worksheet design. And let's see, that password. Yeah. All right. So, but when I click Fetch Database, it now connected to this SQL server, and I can see all the databases that are on here, and I can just choose which one I want to connect to. And then if I want to see what tables were within that database, I can click here for Load Tables. And so I'm looking for one way down here, user information. And I'm just going to open it up. So I ended up creating a database connection to the SQL server to get this table. Now, again, if I wanted to look at a different table within this connection here, I would simply use the drop-down arrow and just say, edit. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to remember which one I want here. Yeah, edit table info. And it brings up my connection that I already created. Again, if I could always change, click the fetch database. All right, maybe not. Okay, there it goes. I can change the database I was connecting to a different database if I wanted to, or if I keep this database, I can always change the table. Instead of user information, maybe I want user security, and just say okay to that, and it'll change out the table there. Again, it's not a drag or drop, but the big takeaway when we're talking about swapping out your data sources is that this drop-down arrow, these menu drop-down features are going to be your friend. So for like reports, you can always say edit and remove or edit the file path. And anytime you're talking about something with a database connection or application connection, you're just going to click down here and just say either for a Excel file, you're going to edit the file path. For here, for the Excel as the worksheet design, you can say edit file path if you wanted another one, or the apply to button to change a different worksheet within that workbook. And then for like, in this case, a SQL server, I use a database, the drop down, just edit the table info here. So it allows you to change out what you're actually pointing to, right? All right. So far, no questions. All right. So that's swapping out data sources within data prep. Again, and usually the big issue you see is when you share these workspaces with people. Now, say like they don't have you'll get the warning message when you first open up saying that one or more tables have a problem. And usually if you just hover over that warning message on each table, it'll tell you what the problem is. Usually it can't find the file or doesn't have access to a file. And then just use this drop-down arrow to figure out what how to actually correct it. And usually it's almost always going to be either edit the file path or edit the table info, with the exception of Excel files where it's almost always going to be edit file path. All right. So now automator connection definitions. All right, let me minimize this a little bit and launch my browser here. And I need to go to my automator server. Give me 1 second, it's coming up. There we go. All right. Log in real quick. All right. So automator connection definition. And if I wanted to have questions on what we just talked about, feel free to throw that in and I can come back to it. But for automator connection definitions, one, you have to have the right permissions to access this option. But if you're an administrator on Automator, you should have access to it. And where you find these connection definitions, the main point to the connection definitions is to actually set up a predefined connection to like say a database or some other data source where you don't necessarily want to share their credentials with everybody that could access Automator. It's basically just creating a shortcut to a connection that other people can access, because it's going to Automator is going to access it through whatever credentials that you provide, but the end user doesn't need to know those credentials. It's very similar to like if you're familiar with like ODBC or OLADB connections on your desktop machines. Connection definitions are very similar in the way that's you kind of set this up ahead of time within Monarch Server or Automator. Now again, if you look under Automator right now, you won't see connection definitions. It's because I don't have, it's kind of hidden behind an advanced option. So if you don't see connection definitions under Automator, just come down here to the bottom of the list and click Show Advanced Options. And then once I do that, now if I expand Automator, I also get two new features, one showing server status and one showing connection definitions. So this is where you can actually start creating these basically shortcuts for end users where you don't want to share the permissions. You have a couple in here already. But if you want to create a new one, if you just kind of click on the little plus sign here, and again, if you're familiar with Automator, we have the same semantics or whatever. So like, the plus is to add, the pencils are for editing, and the X is for deleting. And this one is just to duplicate something, so copy. I'm gonna click the little plus sign to create a new connection. I have to give it a name. So I'm gonna call this Ask the Expert. We'll call it May 9, just so something different. And you have to give it a connection string. Now, there's a couple ways of doing this, and this is all relative to the Automator server. So if you click the browse, you can kind of go through the wizard here. So select the provider type. Now, again, this is all stuff that's based on the server or what's on Automator at the time. You can kind of see if I were to actually look at my server, I really don't have a lot of ODBC or OLADB connections or any other kind of drivers on my Automator server. So if you are using something special to connect, you're going to want to make sure that those drivers are also installed on Automator as well. But in this case, I'm just simply going to select the ODBC provider. I think I have one on the server itself. 1 second to go look real quick. Oh yeah, okay. And the other thing to want to also keep in mind is, depending on how your Automator server is installed, whether it's 32-bit or 64-bit, chances are it's all going to be 64-bit at this point. But if you have a 64-bit Automator or Monarch server running, you want to make sure you have the 64-bit drivers installed as well. So I do have one over here, and let's swing it over real quick just so you can see. So I do have in my ODBC data source admin panel, I actually really only have one ODBC connection created already called ATE data. So I'm just going to reference that. Let's get up here. So, and I believe I can remember the credentials for it. Database, I'm just going to use the name connection string. And this one was called ATE data. Test connection, and it was successful. So you can see the password is encrypted, so it is hidden. It's also encrypted, so end users won't be able to see it. If you unselect this checkbox and Automator goes to run, it's either expecting to be a trusted connection where it doesn't need to be authenticated. If it does, your process will fail because it's trying to log in with either no password or whatever wasn't provided. And since it's not interactive, it just doesn't know how to handle that, and just the process will fail. So if you do need a password, I would most definitely recommend selecting this checkbox, include the password with the correct password here. And then this is like an optional description, but you don't need it if you don't want one. I'm going to hit save. So now I have this connection string that I created here that's now available. So if I were to actually come create a visual process, for instance, and I'm going to use a database input here. And again, I want to browse for it. And you'll see, like, instead of actually going through a wizard like we kind of just did for the to actually create that connection definition, you'll see you have an option here for connection definitions. So I'm going to select that, and it'll bring up that window here, and you can see I have 3 already created. I can select the one I want, which is the one I just created. I'm going to click OK, and now I can choose from one of the tables that this connection definition went to. Now again, this doesn't need what's the word? You don't have to share the password if you already include it. The end user won't be able to figure out what the password is, but it just allows them to have access to whatever tables this ODBC entry was granted access to. So in this case, I might just select this yellow trip data table and apply. So now I have this table available to me. I can use it for whatever. I unfortunately do not think I have the workspace that goes with that. I think that's I believe that was a model. 1 second. Yeah, I don't have the model that, or I don't have a workspace or model that would actually take this data in, but again, it's just simply connected, and then whatever it's going to use to get out of here. Oh. And then again, now if for some reason, like if you share this process with somebody, again, they could easily, and hopefully, I'm trying to remember, I believe we made a recent change, and I want to say it's 2021, 2022. Hopefully some of my colleagues can chat me on the side, but in the past, when you would migrate these processes, the database, even though you use, yeah, so I'm probably not doing it either. Even though we're using a connection definition, like you have a nice clean name here, when you actually substitute, like we actually decode or change the actual nice clean name to actually use the connection string almost. So if you are sharing this or you're moving this to another server, you want to make sure that this information is correct. A lot of times you'll see someone going from QA to production, the database names will change. We don't necessarily store the actual, what am I trying to say here? The like if you move this to another server, we'll move this information with you as well, but you'd still have to update this information on the new server. Yeah, give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're saying here, but I mean, chances are you probably won't come across this. But keep that in mind, that even though we said use this name, this nice family-friendly name, generic name, it will actually put in the connection string up here of what it's trying to do. But again, you can always change this connection. So like, again, I pointed to this one right here. So if I were to go to, which one? Is this one different? I think this one might be different. Yeah, so like if you know, if I changed, so if you look at my 3 connection definitions, these are some nice generic names here. This is using a data connection string, this is using ODBC connection, and this is one I just created. If I change the one I just created, you notice that the connection string looks like this. If I were to change to a different definition, click here, you can kind of see what the connection string looks like. So we store the actual connection string within the process, not the safe name that you see listed here. So again, I've seen this when you go from like a QA environment to a production environment, that they have the same names with a different connection string. The problem is we don't reference the nice safe name. We always reference the connection string. But you can see a different connection string, but still pointing to the exact same data here. All right. Yeah, so that is connection definitions. So there's not a lot to them. The other thing with connection definitions, I tend to, well, I'll throw a little trick in when we actually, like, if you don't know the connection strings, again, this is all relative to the Automator server. So when you're doing this, again, if you're going to use like a, you need to know this information, right? Like what I did to get that actual connection string is I have a nice little, I have a text file here. Actually, I'll just do a new one. I'll just create a new shortcut for a text file. So if anyone wants to create their own connection string without having to go through our wizard with an automator, I'm just going to give it an extension with this .udl extension on it. What's going on here? Yes, there you go. You notice it'll change. If I double click that now, it'll actually bring up the Windows Microsoft version of the connection wizard, and you can just kind of let's see, actually, but you can kind of go through here and choose the driver that you're looking to connect with. Let's see, whatever, and then work your way through the wizard here. And that's kind of what I did with this one right here. So you open up the text file here. But once you save the, actually, let me just do this. So if I open it, I filled out the blanks here. So I went to my server, it's a SQL Express instance. I filled out a username and password and said which database do I want to connect to. I'm going to change it to this one, do test connection. And then once I say okay to that, if I come back in here and add the TXT extension and open it up, I now get this nice connection string that I can copy and come back to here. One second here. I'm trying to remember how I did this last time. But yeah, I came in and just kind of pasted the information right here, and this connection succeeded. Again, with rights, you can control who can see this. Right now, if I set global, anyone that logs into Automator could have access to that connection definition, or you can change which group, role, or individual user could actually access that definition. So you can control who can see it through the rights here. Right. Okay. And again, if you don't see connection definitions listed down the left side here, just make sure you're showing your advanced options. Like here, you won't see it. And then you click show advanced options, and now become available to you. And with that, I don't have anything else on the two topics that were voted on last time. So unless someone has questions or would like to ask something not related to those two topics, I'm going to turn it back to Rebecca.
So Luis, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to ask your question live, or do you want to put that in the chat? Do you want to type a message in the questions? Or is that just an accidental hand raised? It's a question. Okay. No, we can't hear you, but I could, yeah, because it doesn't show that I can unmute you. It shows you're not connected for some reason. Could you type we could see your question. Could you type your question out? Oh. Let's see. I don't have any control on how to unmute you. I could make you a presenter if you want to share your screen. Not sure if you want
Look like
to.
he's connected to audio at the. I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird.
So hopefully, I mean, it sounds like you hear us because you typed in the message. Okay, so you've created a workspace. And you're having trouble with the workspace, or you want to review how to make a workspace? Oh, so you create a workspace and you put it in the library and automator. Do you want to know how to revise that workspace or how to add it into the library?
So you have files dropping with different names daily. All right.
So that sounds like a wild character
Yeah.
update.
So I would say, hopefully there's something common to those. Let's see. Let's see if I can find the.
Oh, it says the virtual process is asking for an original name.
Yes. So, not sure if this one's going to be good. Let me just double check here. Nope. One second. I just got to find a workspace that actually has. Oh, actually, this one should work. So, like, say you have. I mean, this is a library model. Sorry, but basically, it has to do with that input node, and you see that a lot, especially when you're uploading into Automator. Oh, here we go. So let me just dump this off here for a second. So what happens is, like, say you upload your workspace into your workspace into the server library, right? And I have one here called def files. So it's pointing to my server library. You can tell by this DOR prefix here. But you end up getting a lot of these error messages going down the side. And usually get those error messages because it can't find the file that it's talking about. So as I keep drilling down into here just to see what it's talking about, you'll see it says report original. And this is what I was talking about before, is that it's looking for the file name that was actually within that workspace. So when you built out that workspace, this is the file, the report that I was looking for. In my case, it's pointing to my OneDrive, this UOB folder, def files. Now, again, Automator doesn't know anything about my OneDrive folder. So what I have to do is change that so Automator can find a file or know where to look for that file. In this case, I'm going to make it relative to Automator so it can actually get to it. So I'm not going to give Automator access to my OneDrive folder, but I'm going to put these files out to a location that Automator can access, right? So you do that with this file input node. So you'll just end up dragging the file input node over to your workspace. And then if I, so I'm actually going to call this, and I rename file input. I'm going to call it def files. Def files for Automator. Just give it a name that I'm going to recognize, right? All right, so. All right, so it's saying def files for Automator. But now, in this case, my path, I have a name path here. But again, you don't necessarily have to use a name path, but I have a name path called Ask the Expert. And then under my Ask the Expert, I do have a folder called def files and a folder called input. This is where I'm going to stick all my def files that I want Automator to process. So I kind of browse down to that folder. I don't have any there right now, so I can always move them back in. But in this case, I'm just going to give it a wildcard. Now, in my case, all the definition files that I want to process all end with the extension .def. So they all have a different name up front, but the extension is always the same. So I'm going to say I want to access all the files that end with this .def extension. So I'm going to use the star dot, which is the star is just a wildcard for anything, any character. Say OK to that. And then I just need to connect this input node, file input, to my workspace. So once I have that connection here, this little data connection, if I click back on the workspace, notice I still have the error messages here though. But now if I drill back into here, get down, 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 down. Again, this is where it's looking for it. But I want to change. I no longer want to look for it here. I'm going to use my dropdown. I'm going to select the name of that particular file input node. And the reason I renamed it is just so it makes it more obvious. So def files for Automator. Again, if I had this one, I'm just going to just join it up. It's not really going to point to anything. But again, if I kind of just drill down in here, you'll see that I now have another input node called file input. So you just want to make sure that if you do have multiple input nodes, that you're actually referencing the correct one. So in this case, it's going to be def files for Automator. I'm going to select that. And as soon as I select that, some of the error messaging goes away. Now I still have a problem because down here, it's probably looking for the exact same thing. So I'm just going to keep drilling down. And it's still looking for the exact same def file. So I'm going to select the same input node. Now, notice that at least this one, this load plan no longer has that error message. So if this is the only one that I'm really concerned about processing, I can stop here. But if I plan on exporting any of these other load plans, I need to kind of just do the exact same thing. Just drill down into it, change the inputs to be the name, like basically the file input node of where it can actually find these files. Right? So now that I've changed all of them, I no longer have any error messages. I can hit apply. Let me just get rid of this one here. We don't need that. And then now I can export any of these load plans in here. So. Oh, for database input. I got you. Let's see. Database input. Do I have a process with database input? Actually, know what I can do? We got a few minutes. Let's just do this real quick. Server library. Actually, I'm going to create I don't think you can. Yeah, I think for a database input, you're going to actually have to make sure that, like, if you're using ODBC connections, you have to make sure that ODBC connection exists on the Automator server, or Automator can access that. Are using? I'm trying to. Were you guys using like Access? Actually, hang on a second. You can do this in the workspace node. All right, give me 1 second here. I'm going to save this. Save credentials. Let's see, and then let me close this. Do this. Workspace. Add new. I gotta find where to save that workspace. Give me 1 second.
Chris, it looks like he said he changed it. He goes, he meant it for an Excel file dropping.
Okay, that works. I had one there as well. So,
Okay.
Will this work? It will not. 1 second. Copy path. We'll name the clipboard. Oh yeah, okay, that's fine. Assign to root folder. We're going to assign it to Ask the Expert folder. Say okay. Oops. All right. So Excel as database. So I believe in this case, let me just double check this. No. I'm honestly pretty sure this was an issue before.
I think you might have to define the database input and make sure
that's why.
Okay. Yeah, I think then it should become available. And I think if you're using worksheet design, then I think it's the report input, the file input, sorry, that you need to use if it's worksheet design.
Yeah, this one I think I actually used the Excel as database. So local or web file, location, ask the expert. So what I'm going to do is let's put it here. Give me 1 second. I have to go copy it up to the server. Copy. Go over to here. And then I know no one can see what I'm doing, but give me 1 second here. Ask the expert. Put it here. Paste. I was hoping it's going to refresh automatically. It does not look like it. Let's try this again. But I'm still not 100% convinced you can use a wildcard character. Okay, so that's set up where it would conceivably work. So I guess the question is going to be, honestly, I don't remember. Now, I think the problem if you use the wildcard character, so I'm going to say star dot XLSX, you have to know the sheet name. And
so the very latest version, I think, has got an enhancement where you can still get it to scan the files and give you the sheet names. So there's an additional dialog box. So you can either fill the sheet name in manually as you're doing now, or I think if this is the latest patch, you'll be able to display the sheet names.
yeah, it is the latest patch. But the problem is with the wildcard, this doesn't know how to. I'm not sure if it's the wildcard or it's on a share. Because once I had, like, let me just do this. If I were to actually browse to it, it will show up. I can use a drop down and pull it in. But as soon as you change it, it doesn't know, even though there's the only one in there, it just doesn't know. Oh, now it didn't get rid of it. That's good. But yeah, you have to know the tail that you're going to actually go against. So I'm going to hit apply, and that should work as well. Data prep export. Oh, did I lose my connection here? Nope, still there. Do this, and then CSV. Ask the expert. Apply, run. Oh, interesting.
I wonder
Yeah,
if
I
that
got
could.
something.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. It's something going on with my server, I think, 'cause I was playing with something.
Or potentially it's created it in the newer version of Data Prep Studio.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, because we did get that warning message that it was your newer version, which is weird because. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got 22.1, and this is 22.0. So in theory, it should work. Is this? Do I have 22? I don't think I have 20. I have an older version. I can always try that, but yeah, it's we're about 5-6 minutes left. So I want to leave Rebecca the time she needs. But I will check that out, Luis, and get back to you on that.
To improve. Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye-bye.